Welcome back to the Cow Park Bros podcast. Jason and I are fresh off discussing the approval and availability of the Pfizer vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds. In segment 2, we're going to be talking about somebody talking real slick and paying the price. Small price, but he did pay the price. Aaron Rodgers, and I'm referencing the article from ESPN by Rob Dombrowski, indicated that basically he definitely misled people about his COVID vaccination status, but he stood by his comments. He ends up on the Pat McAfee show, Jason, not once, but twice, right?
Yeah, the first was towards the end of last week when he made his comments about the positive test, the sitting out the game, and his stance and views on vaccines, where he got his information from, what he has done to be immunized, stuff like that. And then this past Monday is when he went back on, not necessarily to fully walk back everything he said, but basically just to add more about what he did say, and basically had more of a softer stance on a lot of things. But yeah.
So I have a quote here from the Pat McAfee show where Rogers says, "I made some comments that people might have felt were misleading." Rogers told McAfee, "To anybody who felt misled by those comments, I take full responsibility for those comments. I'm excited about feeling better. I'm excited about moving forward and hopefully getting back with my team and getting back to what I do best, and that's playing ball. It's been tough being away from it. I'm obviously dealing with the COVID." I just like the way he references this, the COVID, and I feel like I'm on the other side of it, thankfully, and I'm thankful to be able to have something to look forward to this weekend, hopefully. Now he's saying that hopefully because he ain't been cleared to come back yet, has he?
Exactly. How else he missed last week's game because it just happened at that point, and his team lost 13-7, I believe it was. Um, but correct, as of this weekend's game against the Seahawks, which I believe is in Green Bay, as of right now, he has not been cleared yet. Now, obviously, that can change in the next. I believe he has 3 more days to get cleared, or maybe even 4. But yeah, as of right now, today, he's still on the not going to play list. So
Yeah. My first thoughts are, so he obviously got fried because he was asked by reporters if he had been vaccinated re- regarding COVID. He responds kind of cagey, like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm immunized."
this is back in August, by the way, when he first was going to start coming back. That was back in August. But yeah, correct. That's when he said that. Correct.
So he said that he's effectively benefited from whatever protocols were in place for the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. We on other shows we've talked about how the NFL was indicating, hey, you're going to have certain availability if you've gotten vaccinated versus a restricted um, availability if you to like facilities and workouts facilities and cafeterias.
Actually, Terrence, hang on 1 second because I've actually seen this twice now. According to that article from November the 3rd that we just referenced initially by Rob Domofsky, like the second paragraph in there, and again, I heard someone else say this, since, but the NFL has considered Rodgers as unvaccinated since the start of the season. Sources confirmed to ESPN and as first reported by NFL Network. So at least the NFL at least has considered him as unvaccinated. Now, what the Packers did or didn't do, that's probably the more the issue, which we're going to go into. Just wanted to point that out real quick.
Well, to your point, Jason, ultimately this does fall on the Green Bay Packers because the NFL set out guidance. But also, if the Packers aren't doing anything about it, then the National Football League needs to fucking intervene and say, okay, you're effectively skirting team rules, and uh, and he's potentially putting other people in fucking danger. Um, by for example, he's not the only guy. Listen, he is not the only fucking quarterback in a league of 32 teams that is not unvaccinated. He is the only one most blatantly acting as though if he can do so without any extra fucking protocols. So he was effectively out here free nosing it, right? Um on the sidelines, um in press conferences, and acting like shit was all good. And for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who I consider to be so obsessed with what people think of him, I refuse to believe. There ain't no way in hell he didn't think this was going shit was going to go down like the Hindenburg once it came out that he basically was kind of being cute with words. So those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. The statement, "Yeah, I'm immunized," is definitely the popular thing. Like people like throwing around to make kind of fun of that. Like I told you yesterday, obviously the reporter asked him flat out, essentially in so many words, "What's your vaccination status?" And he threw that line out there. And if I'm anybody who was in that room or listening to that live, as someone who likes to play semantics a lot, as I'm sure you are aware of yourself, Terrence, that as soon as he said that, my immediate thought was, "Well, wait a minute, that's not what I asked you. So what do you mean you're immunized and not vaccinated? I asked you, are you vaccinated, not immunized? Or if you say you're immunized, what are you talking about?" I would have delved more deeply in that, or at least I would have thought in my head, okay, he's not vaccinated because he said immunized, not vaccinated. So my mind would trigger automatically. He's lying about something or misleading about something, and sure enough, it's not.
I mean, I
So
mean, I don't want to I don't want to like I don't want to split hairs here, but the difference between immunization and vaccination, they are effectively synonyms. It's how he said the shit. It's how he said the shit. A lot of times it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And how he said it is why he's getting fried.
well, correct. Um, one thing, not one thing. I definitely have several. Now, of course, on the first um, instance when he was on the Pat McAfee show, is when he said a couple of things that kind of caught people's eyes. Then the one thing was, he did go into what he meant by immunized, and essentially, like you said, he did a lot of homeopathic stuff, holistic stuff, working with a lot of people who are smart people in the world, like Harvard MDs, things like that, and whatnot. Um, Basically, he was working on things to uh, take care of his body and boost his immune system, which the measures he took were supposedly boost his immune system to help him get fight COVID. He did mention also that he considered getting the vaccine, but he looked into it. He had concerns when it comes to um, lack of information when it comes to fertility issues that may be caused by that. Um, Also, all the other sorts of things involved as well. So he brought that up, which again, like I said before, that's fair. That's his choice. Is what it is. Whatever. Um, the part that made me laugh and it pretty much automatically shut down anything else he said after that when it comes to him not being a flat earther, conspiracy theorist, whatever you want to call it, or anti-vaxxer. He mentioned that he consulted with a good friend and apparently expert in all matters COVID and the vaccine, his friend Joe Rogan. And yes, the same Joe Rogan who does the same thing we do here on the podcast world. That same person that we all know who's gotten COVID himself And apparently that's one of the reasons why Aaron consulted Joe on this. And per Rogers' own words, he took some of Joe's advice and went from there. Um,
It was funny is that even Joe Rogan would say, Joe Rogan would say regarding Joe Rogan, don't listen to me. I'm a fucking idiot. I host a podcast. I not a fucking medical professional.
yeah, I mean, I think I've said it live on the show before. I definitely told people in person, definitely want you to listen to our show, but never do we claim we're experts on any one particular category, whether it be medical, sports, or anything like that. We might have some knowledge on some stuff based off what we read or what we just know from personal experience. But when it comes to the medical stuff, yeah, folks, we're not doctors. I don't have MD behind my name or the DR in front of it. I got a DVR, but not a DR. But yeah, so we're not medical experts here. And no offense to Joe Rogan, or all offense to Joe Rogan, he's not a medical expert. And I'm sure Aaron Rodgers knows that. So I like to think whatever consulting he did with Joe Rogan was more perspective of, hey, how'd you feel when you had COVID? What happened with this, that, or the other? And kept it there. That I get. But when it comes to any kind of medical advice, when it comes to anything COVID related or the vaccine itself, yeah, I don't think you want to be putting out there that you actually talked to Joe Rogan about that. I mean, I wouldn't mind talking to Joe Rogan, not about that.
It's just very odd. Like, don't even name drop him, dog. That motherfucker don't play for the Packers. Stop it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm sure he actually did, but I feel like he had to have known bring that up was going to pretty much, crap all over whatever else he said because everybody, like you said, everybody knows Joe Rogan's an idiot, which is why he has 11 million people listening to him.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that Joe Rogan's an idiot. I'm gonna say if you have one of 32 good ass jobs in a $4 billion league, and you are effectively a leader by default when you are a quarterback. That is not very leaderly when you start name dropping all these other motherfuckers.
Yeah, well,
Like don't be bringing up if I was his homie and I heard that interview, I'm like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Like that is the heat I don't need.
you don't want that smoke.
I do not.
I don't know why I've been saying that all day, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know why you've latched on to that.
Well, I know why, but I'm not going to say it on air. But um, I will throw out there that as of I believe yesterday, yep. So the NFL did levy its fines and punishments to the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. By the way, I'm not sure. I'm sure you saw that. But basically, they for the team, the Packers, they issued a $300,000 fine, which in the grand scheme of things, it's a small amount, but still $300,000 for violate. So this is per an article from Sports Illustrated, and I can go through some of it here because it's pretty quick. But yeah, so league reported issued a $300,000 fine to the Packers for violating the COVID-19 protocols established by the NFL and the NFLPA, according to ESPN's Rob Demovsky. Rodgers and wide receiver Alan Lazard have also each been fined. Speaking of small amounts, $14,650. Uh, we're not gonna have to go over Aaron Rodgers' salary, but I think you all know that 14 grand is light change. But it is what it is. The point is they did fine him. Um, uh, and so the Packers were also notified, according to the article, that if any future violations of protocols could result in a possible change of draft position and or loss of draft picks, per Adam Schefter. So yeah, so I would imagine that if the Packers weren't minding their P's and Q's about this before, either intentionally or otherwise, I bet they are now.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that.
Well, it's not even because of the
It,
money, not even because of the money, but the draft pick part of it. Because I agree with you. Like I said, the money is a light amount. Now, I don't know what.
I mean, I mean, Aaron Rodgers could literally wipe his ass for $15,000. To me, that's a waste of time. You know, to it doesn't do anything for me. Uh, the only way to effectively make a real example out of these motherfuckers is to basically give up game time. Yeah,
I'm guessing you mean beyond just the COVID protocol quarantine.
beyond just the COVID deal, because basically, let's say he actually passes the protocol. I'm like, yeah, that covers his public health situation. That doesn't cover his public health responsibility situation. Um, and I would argue that the burden that the 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 standard um, of care and the expectations are higher because he's a quarterback. I know for a fact Alan Lazard was also fined $15,000. Just one difference. Quarterback, it's listen, when you fuck up, the penalty is higher. When you do great, the rewards are higher. And so because he's a quarterback, there's a higher standard, and there should be. So, 15 grand doesn't do shit for me as a as a concerned NFL fan and also public health concerned citizen. Like, what the fuck is $15,000 gonna do? The draft pick, if the NFL actually like puts some iron in the glove and actually goes to town on that, that would be interesting because you're suspending Rodgers hurts them now. Draft pick hurts them next year. That's a two-pronged attack.
Well, that's very true. A couple things. So I agree with you that suspending players for this beyond just their COVID quarantine and whatnot. I agree with you. That'd be a good idea. And I gotta say this is a problem, but I say the issue with that being the case is, like I mentioned before, all the protocols and whatnot and agreements have to be agreed upon by the NFL and the NFLPA.
Right?
Good luck getting the NFLPA to agree with that because, like you said, that's going to cause them losing game checks. Which good luck getting the Players Association to approve of that. Good luck. Um,
I mean, they got to a point to agree to what they already had,
well,
and they
yeah.
can't even fucking enforce it. So,
That's more on the Packers, not the NFL. But
nah, and I feel it's a two-headed monster on that one.
how? Hang on. Well, how so? Because in this case, the NFL seems to have done what they're, I don't want to say legally, but what they're allowed to do. We found out that you weren't following the protocols like you're supposed to. Here's your fine. For to the Packers, at least to the Packers. The 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 fines to Lazard and Rogers, that was because of a Halloween party they went to apparently. Um,
Yeah, there's some background on that too. That
I love
that
to hear it.
Halloween story, that Halloween story isn't nearly as funny as the Von Miller Halloween story, by the way.
I don't want to make it about Von Miller, but yeah. So yeah, I definitely I agree with you there. The money on both sides from the Packers 300,000 and Rogers and Lazard's 15 grand, drop in the bucket doesn't mean much beyond it being a starting point for if it were to happen again. I agree with you. Also, draft picks hurts the team in the not as near future as them losing Rodgers or any other player under suspension because of this. Um, but still, that draft pick still sucks. But also sucks for the team. But it will ideally, knock on wood, ensure that the team doesn't do it again. Again, not to say they were allowing Rodgers to do stuff willy nilly, um, intentionally. I don't know. Doesn't matter. They still weren't following the protocols, whether it be intentional or not. So, but it's going to help ensure that the Packers are like, you know what, I don't want to lose any draft picks. Because I don't know the procedure when it comes to how that draft pick will get swapped when it comes to how far back they'll have to go from the normal pick. But either way, even if it's going from 20 to 25, I'm sure they don't want to do that. If it's going 20 to 30, it's probably even worse if you get a draft pick at all. Because
I
that's
mean, the whole point of forfeiting it is that you basically should lose one in the round.
well, that's if it goes to that point. Because the article here says it could be either or. Either you swap position or lose it altogether. I don't. Again, I don't. I didn't bother looking into this for this particular episode when it comes to what's the difference. Is it arbitrary? Is it like you know what? I feel like I'm going to give you this loss of a draft pick instead of swapping spots, or if it's something that says, okay, based on our protocols and our allowments, this stuff happened as opposed to this, so I can give you this punishment over the other. I don't know, but I agree. Either one, I'm sure the Packers don't want either one, especially losing a draft pick altogether. Nobody wants that because I believe, if I recall from what I did read, loss of your draft picks, I believe, is a first round pick, which I'm sure we all don't want that. I mean, as Bears fans, I hope they do lose a first round draft pick, but from a Packers standpoint, I'm sure they don't.
Yeah, I'm not big on talking about, well, we could penalize you on this, we could penalize you on that. I'm like, listen, until that shit is official, like those fines for the individuals or the teams, then it's unicorn bullshit. And that's all I'm gonna say on that.
Well, I mean, it's not unicorn B. It's not BS, man. I mean, it's what it is. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. It has to get to that point, which I have a feeling that no team is gonna, get to that point because if the initial punishment is this stuff, 300 grand and 15 grand or less than for the players, and again, not saying any other team out there is doing stuff like this team did or didn't do, but knowing that you still have that stepping stone before you get to losing draft picks, which I'm sure was strategic on somebody's part to set it up that way, as opposed to straight going to losing a draft pick. So,
Yeah, time will tell if that's the right course of action for this. But I maintain there's no way Aaron Rodgers didn't foresee that he was gonna get fried on this.
well, I mean, look, like I said the other day, had he not tested positive, nobody would have known. It was only because he tested positive that this really come out. Otherwise, the NFL wouldn't have been aware of this. Packers wouldn't have got fined. He wouldn't have got fined only because he tested positive. Now, it's his fault for going to that party if that's how he got it, which we don't know. He could have had it before. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. But yeah, had he not tested positive, he easily could have skated by with this. I mean, look here, this happened for the Week 9 game, which is half the season. So he made it that far. He doesn't test positive. Obviously, he still could have tested positive later in the year, but he easily could have skated by had he not tested positive that one time.
Right. And also, more importantly, we'll see what happens if he's actually cleared to play this Sunday.
Well, I mean, I guess it's based off what it's going to take for him to start playing. It's not set in stone that he will. Um, I mean, I'll give him the benefit. Not even give him. I'll give the process the benefit of the doubt that he probably will be playing. But yeah, I mean, again, as a Bear fan, I obviously hope he doesn't. Not because he's death in bed or anything like that, obviously, but again, it's not just necessarily about just him being not having symptoms. Apparently, um, but I'll make sure all this stuff like internally is looking good when it comes to like heart measurements, vitals, and stuff like that. That has to be cleared too. So, and that's why I say it's not set in stone because yeah, might be feeling great, and everything, but if that heart check ain't looking right or feeling right, then guess what? You ain't playing. So, so yeah. So with that being said, I hope he does play because that would mean that he's not permanently or long term injured because of that. But again, I might not like the guy. I may think he's a piece of crap, but I don't want him to have long term health problems because of this either. So,
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right. That concludes our segment on the shenanigans of one Aaron Rodgers. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about the end of an era for one certain special college coach. Coming up next on Cal Park Bros.